Welcome back. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostrae. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Blessed William Joseph Shamana, ora pro nobis. Eamus. So I'm going to keep this video a little bit briefer. I was not planning on using the conference sort of interactive tool on Schoology, but I think it worked very well this morning, and you could certainly let me know what I could do better or differently about it. So this is a continuation of a discussion of the classical tradition and its origins and the origins of the zodiac in the classical tradition. So we went through all the etymology. We talked a little bit about the story of the golden fleece, which has to do with Aries or the ram. Remember that the golden fleece, normally a winged ram, had this fleece of gold, eventually ends up in Colchis. Colchis is, if you look at a map or you Google like ancient Colchis, it's really on the far eastern edge of the Black Sea, which is pretty far away from Greece, where these stories come from the Peloponnesus. So it's like the end of the world. It's like saying, in Guam to a modern American, or Timbuktu or whatever. Remember, Jason is very much involved in this story. He's one of the great Greek heroes on the Argo with his fellow Argonauts, which include Hercules and Castor and Pollux and a few other Philoctetes. They eventually retrieve the golden fleece from Colchis and is guarded by an unsleeping dragon. And remember who enters into the scene here? Medea. Medea is a very interesting character. She is a witchy woman. She's a foreigner, obviously, not a Greek. She is skilled in the dark arts, one might say. Remember, she kind of uses her witchery to make the dragon sleep. She obviously betrays her own father to steal the golden fleece, goes with this foreigner back to Greece, takes her brother, kills her brother on the boat, throws the pieces of the body overboard so that the king, her father, would have to stop to properly bury the body or at least retrieve the pieces of the corpse of the body. And remember when Medea and Jason eventually get home, they have two children together. It's seemingly normal until Jason ends up deciding he wants to marry the younger daughter of the king of Corinth. And he wants to marry this younger Greek daughter, obviously for ambitious purposes, because he wants to be in the royal family. And Medea is an outcast from her own homeland. She's not a Greek. And he kind of basically discards her and says, I'm leaving you and I'm going to marry this young, fair-skinned, beautiful Greek princess. And, you have to leave. And Medea, almost rightfully so, gets angry, but angry to the point where she commits one of the most heinous acts you could imagine. She kills her own children, both the children that she had with Jason. And the idea was this is something she kills herself, and she's out of the picture. Almost does Jason a favor. She kills Jason, his suffering ends. But if she kills the children, it'll be a wound that he'll have to carry forever, and it'll psychologically destroy him, and it'll emotionally destroy him, and that's what she decides to do. Remember, we said that this says a lot about sort of the relationship between men and women in the ancient world, but even more so about foreigners and those who are native Greeks. There's a lot of xenophobia in this story where Medea is seen with suspicion because she is not Greek and she's a foreigner. So there's all that going on. So if we move on to the next slide, so if you have, I'll give you, I'm going to pause and give you a moment to take out your notes here because we're going to do a little Latin here. So I'll go and get your notes out. Okay, welcome back. So if you scroll down, again, we were kind of analyzing this constellation here which doesn't really look very much like a ram to me. But if you go down, you have some sentences to translate here. We're just going to go through the two sentences, and then we'll maybe preface Taurus, and then we'll talk about it tomorrow in class. So you have Aries alatus mactatus erat atque lana aurea eius in terra incognita barbara, que a Grecia longifuit ex arbore pendebat. So again, when you look at a sentence, Latin sentence, you want to find a verb, and that'll give you your foothold. And the verb here, first verb you see is mactatus erat. It's an indicative verb, pluperfect passive. What had been sacrificed? Aries alatus. The Aries, the ram, alatus, wing it. The winged ram had been sacrificed, and now we have to look for another verb. And fuit's a verb, but that's in the relative clause there. You go a little bit further, you see pendebat. Pendebat means like to hang, was hanging. And the subject is going to be the lana, which is the fleece, means wool or fleece. Aurea, the golden fleece. That's the nominative singular subject. And the golden fleece, and its golden fleece, eius, genitive of the personal pronoun is id, right? The golden fleece of it, its golden fleece, meaning the golden fleece of the ram, was hanging ex arbore, from a tree, from an ablative tree. Remember, it had been guarded, hanging from a tree, and the tradition is guarded by this dragon, right? Was hanging from a tree. Where? In terra incognita barbara, in an unknown barbarian land. This is focus, right? This idea we talked about earlier, like Guam, Timbuktu, the middle of nowhere, unknown and mysterious and scary to Greeks. So in an unknown barbarian land, que is a relative pronoun, right? And it's relating more about the terra. The antecedent is the land. Remember that que is going to be feminine and singular because terra is feminine and singular. But it's going to be nominative because it's the subject of the relative clause. The relative clause being que a Grecia longe fuit. It's the subject of fuit, which was que, meaning the land, que, which relatively fuit was longe, far off, longe. This adverb from Virgil, when it says Carthago contra longe, far opposite, whatever. Longe, far off from Grecia, ablative Greece. So again, your full clean translation would be something like the winged ram have been sacrificed, and its golden fleece hung from a tree in a unknown barbarian land which was far from Greece. We'll talk about the grammar tomorrow. The next one talks a little bit about Medea, where you have Medea Juvante. That's an ablative absolute, Juvante being a present active participle, modifying Medea in the ablative, with Medea helping, with Medea actively presently helping, right? Jason, right? So that is a capital I, just Jason's name. Jason potuit, was able, perfect tense of postum posse, capere, complementary infinitive, to snatch, to take the accusative golden fleece. So the ablative absolute in the beginning is with Medea helping. And then you have underneath, you have an indirect question. Nescio num. I do not know whether, Nescio num whether, Medea celesta aut bona fueret. Whether nominative Medea fueret was. Fueret here is the seldom seen perfect subjunctive. Looked identical to the future perfect indicative, but it's actually just the perfect subjunctive active. I do not know whether Medea was celesta aut bona, wicked or good, evil or good, etc. I think most of us could say in the end she's probably wicked, right? She killed her children, but you do have to think of her victimhood a little bit here, with the fact that Jason really does discard her as just used up, of no use to him anymore. So you can imagine how she felt there. So a clean translation for number 2 on this slide. With Medea helping, Jason was able to take or capture or snatch the Golden Fleece. I do not know whether nominative Medea was perfectly subjunctively wicked or good. If we scroll down here, we see the next thing we're going to look at is Taurus. I think we could probably hold off and do that tomorrow in class via conference. Just realize this is another story about Zeus doing his thing, and he turns himself into different animals, and he turns his the objects of his affection into different animals. And here you have when Zeus transforms himself into a bull, a bos, bovis in Latin, and basically kidnaps a Phoenician princess. But we will talk about this tomorrow. Make sure that you are getting proper rest. Make sure that you are, washing your hands. Remember that the next homework assignment due is going to be the English language cultural IDs will be due on Wednesday. So I'm going to give you till Wednesday to submit that. And there's a link for it on Schoology, and there's already an assignment created. All right, everyone, be safe. Hope to see you soon. Thanks.